From West Virginia Public Broadcasting.
At the legislature today, the governor promises comprehensive mine safety legislation this session, but one smaller, though still important, mine safety bill is making its way through the Senate. There are 4 new faces in the West Virginia House of Delegates. We'll meet them tonight. And we continue our discussion about innovation, technology, and manufacturing in the state on the legislature today. Good evening, I'm Beth Voorhees. When Governor Earl Ray Tomblin arrives in Houston, Texas tomorrow to convince a major corporation to build a massive natural gas refining plant in the state, he has some new ammunition available. As Bob Brunner reports, the state Senate quickly passed a bill granting huge tax breaks to a so-called cracker plant.
While it normally takes weeks of committee hearings and days of floor action, the cracker bill passed in minutes. The Senate actually approved the measure passed by the House Monday without any changes.
This is probably one of the most important bills that we'll consider during this legislative session. We're going to move this bill through as quickly as possible to give the governor the opportunity to negotiate the possibility of maybe 1 or 2 cracker plants in the state of West Virginia.
The rules requiring 3 days consideration were quickly dispensed with, and the measure passed unanimously. Raleigh County Senator Mike Green's committee worked on cracker issues much of last year.
I think it's going to be a game changer for the state of West Virginia. And what this does, it gives the governor the opportunity and the leverage to go meet with these corporations and let them know that we are committed to bring this facility here to West Virginia and willing to do what's best, not only for the industry, but also for the state of West Virginia and its residents.
Senate President Jeff Kessler says this action puts West Virginia miles ahead of neighboring states Pennsylvania and Ohio, whose legislatures have taken no action to lure a cracker plant.
I'm hopeful it sends a strong signal that West Virginia, its governor, its legislature are willing to literally move mountains if need be to get one of these crackers or more here in West Virginia. I think we've shown that the commitment to the industry and to the setting up a fair, efficient regulatory framework last month when we did the special session on Marcellus. Now we've shown that we're willing to make the necessary adjustments to our tax code to make us competitive in that regard as well. So, you know, the message is that we not only want to locate 1 or more of them here, that they'll flourish when they get here.
We often hear how lengthy and complicated the legislative process can be, but this bill providing great tax incentives for a so-called cracker plant moved through the House in lightning speed on Monday and the Senate on Wednesday, showing this legislature can move quickly when necessary.
The Senate also passed a bill allowing paramedics to administer a drug called naloxone to accident victims who appear to be under the influence of drugs. For West Virginia Public Broadcasting, I'm Bob Brunner in Charleston.
After the Senate vote sent the cracker tax incentive bill to him today, Tomblin said having it with him as he meets with investors in Houston tomorrow will send a strong message.
I think the speedy way that the House and Senate handled this bill really sends a clear signal out that we in West Virginia, we are out to get your business here. We want your investment in West Virginia, and we will do whatever possible that we can to attract a cracker to West Virginia.
We know that there's a competition between Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Ohio. Do you have any sense at all as to where Pennsylvania and Ohio are in kind of incentivizing a cracker plant?
Well, I think that the bill that we passed today, because in the other states they do not have the kind of taxes, real estate taxes, that we have, and I think the simple fact that we will now be taxing any investment over $2 billion or more at 5% of salvage value. And I think that sends a clear message to the investors out there that we want you in West Virginia, and we're doing what we can to make sure that you do choose West Virginia.
So Pennsylvania doesn't have, or Ohio doesn't have this?
They do not, but however there are other things that they do have that we do not have. So yeah, we've put together a very aggressive package. We've been working for the last 14 months, almost day and night, with various investors, and I think that we stand a very good chance of being able to land one here in West Virginia.
The Senate's Committee on Energy, Industry, and Mining has approved a bill granting tax credits to mine owners who go the extra mile for safety products. The measure is a follow-up to the legislation passed last year in the wake of the Upper Big Branch mine disaster. If the bill wins final approval, mine operators who purchase and install innovative mine safety technologies like new methane monitors and motion sensors would qualify for a credit on their income tax. Senator Karen Facemeyer worked on the legislation.
I think it's very important because at times you don't foresee sitting here in the legislature what all is needed as far as safety in the mines and stuff. So we pass legislation mainly in recourse to some of the tragedies that happen. This gives us a chance, and the mine operators to have a chance to be proactive. They're there every day. They know what is needed in the mines to keep them safe and to protect the workers, and this gives them a chance to do that.
The bill now moves to the Senate Finance Committee. The House of Delegates has had to fill 4 vacant seats since last May. As Adam Cavalier reports, 2 of those seats were vacated because of untimely deaths, while 2 others came after delegates left to take other jobs.
All seats were finally filled when Phil DeSario was sworn in yesterday to cover Tim Innes's spot in the 2nd District. DeSario says the whole process has been a whirlwind.
Yesterday morning was quite the morning. I drove down yesterday morning and I literally ran in to meet Delegate Caputo to get me signed in, get a parking spot, get me in here, get me sworn in on the floor. Just a steady influx of people introducing themselves, congratulating me, offering support. Was almost overwhelming. I made it through it, so second day here. Still walking around a little bit, maybe the deer in the headlight looks, but I'm ready to get to work.
While DeSario's appointment came after Innes left for a spot on the Brooke County Commission, Anna Border of the 9th District arrived at the Capitol under very different circumstances. Border's husband Larry held the seat before her, but passed away in 2011. She says it made perfect sense to take his place.
This was a part of my life, and I knew the things he was working on. I knew the people from the 9th District. They know me because Larry was a pharmacist, and he worked a lot of long hours, so I've been campaigning with him and for him for 21 years. So it just seemed like the logical thing to do. Because I knew what he was working on, I knew what was important. And then after I got down here for those first couple of interims, I realized that if I had not agreed to take that appointment, then this part of my life would have been gone too.
Border says her husband would be thrilled that she's the one filling his vacancy.
When I was trying to make up my mind whether I wanted to do this or not, they came to me the day after the funeral. Of course, I understood the time frame, so anyway, I told them I just needed to pray about it. And so I prayed about, what I wanted to do the right thing. I didn't want to be led by emotion or anything like that. And so when I woke up that next morning, I started to pray again. It's like the Lord reminded me of a conversation that Larry and I had 2 years ago in November, and he was reflecting on the fact that Obama had won and that would lay the groundwork for more conservative victories in 2012. And he said if Shelley Moore Capito became governor, he was confident that she would name him head of Health and Human Resources, which that's what he really wanted to do. And I said, but what about the people of the 9th? I thought he would leave them high and dry, and he goes, well, you'll take care of them. So after I was reminded of that conversation, I had perfect peace about doing this.
Border isn't the only widow who's taken her husband's place in the House. While the directory still reads Martin, it's Helen and not Dale who says she's proud to represent the constituents of the 13th District.
But he worked hard. He worked hard for the seniors. I just wanted it to continue. He loved the parades. He liked right there with the people. I'd be half a mile up the parade route, and he's still back here talking to everybody.
Justin Markham took Stephen Komenar's spot in the House after he left to take a post as director of the Mingo County Redevelopment Authority. Markham says the Mingo delegation has helped him hit the ground running.
Delegate Komenar and White have both been personal friends of mine for years, so I've walked the halls of the Capitol for years with them, as well as my time as assistant prosecuting attorney in Mingo County. That helped me just also during my decision making here.
DeSario says his work with the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers and time in Brooke County politics prepared him for his spot in the second.
Just one thing led to another. When the seat became available, I wasn't planning on ever running for the seat, but when it came available, it was the right thing for the labor movement. It was the right thing for the constituents of the 2nd Delegate District, and I'm just proud to be here. I'm honored that the governor gave me this opportunity, and look forward to running in the primary in May.
DeSario and Markham both started in the opening weeks of the session. Border and Martin were appointed over the summer. For West Virginia Public Broadcasting, I'm Adam Cavalier in Charleston.
In a moment, we'll continue our discussion about innovative technologies in West Virginia. First, here's a look at some of the bills introduced in the Senate today. Among the bills introduced in the Senate today, Senate Bill 412, to raise the civil penalties that the Public Service Commission can impose for violations of the Gas Pipeline Safety Act from the existing $1,000 for each violation to $100,000 for each day of violation to a maximum of $1 million for any related series of violations. This change would mirror federal regulations. Senate Bill 414, at the request of the governor, to include various additional professions under the definition of medical services applicant under the Volunteer for Nonprofit Youth Organizations Act. Senate Bill 415, also at the governor's request, authorizing school bus drivers to operate leased buses in another county under certain circumstances. Senate Bill 418, to expand the educational degree qualifications for members of the Board of Parole to include social work, sociology, and psychology. Senate Bill 420, to reform the civil justice system. The bill states that West Virginia's civil liability system has regularly ranked as one of the worst in the nation for legal fairness. Senate Bill 421, creating the Captive Cervid Farming Act to allow deer farms to sell venison. And Senate Joint Resolution Number 8, another proposal by the governor for a constitutional amendment to create the office of Lieutenant Governor. Researchers, scientists, university professors, and others met in Charleston today to discuss the state's growing bioscience industry. This was the second annual West Virginia Biosciences Summit. The event brings together West Virginia's bioscience community, private companies, suppliers, and investors, as well as policy leaders and economic developers, to learn more about how to successfully grow and nurture this important industry in West Virginia. It's sponsored by the Bioscience Association of West Virginia, which was formed in 2009 to promote public understanding of this new industry. Presenters from many of these companies told their stories of what products they're working on and how they can be used for science, medical, and forensic applications worldwide. Joining us tonight is one of those presenters. Dr. Jamie Miller is the Chief Scientific Officer of Trex Biodiscovery. And Ann Barth is the Executive Director of Tech Connect West Virginia, which is working toward growing technology-based economic development here. Ladies, welcome. Glad you're here. First, tell us, what exactly is this summit for?
Well, Bio West Virginia, the Biosciences Summit, is designed to highlight and feature this emerging industry in West Virginia and really show the success of the firms that are here, encourage the ones that are just getting started up, compare best practices, and work together to collaborate and find new ways to achieve success and create more jobs.
So exactly what does your organization do to achieve that?
Well, Tech Connect supports the biosciences as one of our 4 targeted clusters in the state. And in having this forum and bringing these researchers together, we're hoping to bridge that gap between higher education research and industry, turning the research going on in our laboratories into enterprise with new company formation and new jobs for West Virginians.
Really trying to shepherd these new companies through the process of becoming perhaps bigger companies.
That's right.
Jamie, what does your company make?
Trex Biodiscovery is in the business of bringing new understanding to human diseases, and we are applying that to developing new targeted specific therapeutics.
Does your company actually make something?
We have the technology that enables the discoveries.
So this is where we have to kind of understand what innovation technology is. You developed the technology.
Correct, correct. The technology was developed while I was a graduate student at West Virginia University. It is currently a MATRIC, Mid-Atlantic Technology Research Innovation Center technology, and they have spun off the for-profit company Trex Biodiscovery.
So you developed a technology that other people can use, again, for what?
They can use it to discover new treatments, new understanding for various diseases, be they autoimmune diseases, cancer, transplantation-related complications, infectious diseases.
Last night, we talked to the president and CEO of MATRIC. You mentioned that you were a MATRIC.
You are.
You are. How did MATRIC help you when you started out, you found this technology, you wanted to develop it, you wanted to sell it? How did MATRIC help you do that?
MATRIC helped provide an infrastructure and a home for it. They have, excuse me, they have experience commercializing technologies. This is their first biotech technology though, but they give you a space, they give you resources, they give you guidance, mentoring, things that a scientist doesn't necessarily bring with her in her pocket when she comes to the table.
Is the legislature giving a business like Dr. Miller's here what it needs to succeed and grow?
Well, a lot of groundwork has been laid in West Virginia. The West Virginia Research Trust Fund has increased dollars for research going on in our universities. Very key part of the intellectual infrastructure that we need for the innovation economy to thrive in the state. The tech park acquisition of the tech park in South Charleston is really important part of building out that physical infrastructure that's needed for the innovation economy to thrive. One of the key things that is a challenge and a hurdle for new startup companies and entrepreneurs to get over is aggregating the capital needed to form the business and to get started. And that's where, if West Virginia could reinstate the high growth investment tax credit, it would provide companies like Jamie's an added incentive for wealthy West Virginians to invest in West Virginia companies, creating West Virginia jobs right here at home. And we all know that a job created in the state is more likely to stay here.
What about dollars and cents? How much do you need to develop your technology? Do you have a dollar figure on it?
Estimates for a specific disease condition come in at around $1 million. It doesn't have to be an all or nothing thing though, you know, heading down that specific path can happen at an amount a lot less than that. But to take it to a point where you've actually identified which immune cells are causing, say, type 1 diabetes, you know, that's the amount that we've kind of pinned to get it to that point to where you could go to a pharmaceutical company and say, hey, this is a new target for your diabetes therapy or a vaccination strategy.
And you've received a patent.
I have. Our first patent has been issued, and there are following on continuation patents under review currently at the USPTO.
What's it like to get a patent? Because it seems as though it's just a process of you invent something, you draw it out, you describe it, you send it to the U.S. Patent Office, and there you go, you get a patent.
I wish it were that simple.
Oh,
it's a very laborious process. The backlog in itself at the USPTO as it relates to biotechnology is very cumbersome. You're talking several years. This patent was initially filed, I believe, in 2005, and it was just recently awarded the second part of 2011. So I mean, it takes a long time, it takes a lot of financial resources, it takes a lot of guidance, good IP attorneys, things that are not necessarily readily available to people who are starting businesses within our state. But it takes endurance too.
This is a common complaint amongst the bioscience industry here.
Well, and it can be for any of these knowledge-based new economy jobs, because Jamie's situation illustrates perfectly the need to deal with intellectual capital and how that makes the economic development efforts different from traditional economic development. You have to address these issues before you can move forward, but as a state we really have to do that to compete in the 21st century and be ready for the jobs of tomorrow, which is what Tech Connect is trying to do, to diversify the economy and bring in these jobs. We know they're higher wage, we know that they provide a lot of opportunity, and we have lots of room to grow.
Does Trex Biodiscovery, besides yourself, does it employ anybody else?
We currently have a chief executive officer. His name is Mike Wood. He's out of Austin, Texas, and actually he has been brought to the project through MATRIC. They have hired a CEO in residence that his matrix spins off these for-profit companies. He comes on board, steps in the first 6 months or year and helps get them some traction and going. So it's a great resource.
What do you think the future holds for your company? What's your vision? Where do you want it to end up in a few years, in 10 years, 12 years?
It's just going to go wild.
It's just going to go crazy.
It's just going to go crazy. We're working on hopefully licensing deals with people who manufacture reagents that can get them into the hands of researchers all around the world where they can use it in whatever disease they want to study. We're hoping to develop new targeted therapeutics and diagnostics just to improve the lives of those around us. We obviously want to grow the company and employ more people. You know, the technology originated in West Virginia. It's presently housed in West Virginia. We're going to keep it here, and we want to grow that and, you know, have it as a place for employment and discoveries.
What about the workforce in this particular area?
Well, we talked about that some today at the conference, but certainly workforce issues are key to this. We've got to have workers ready, and a lot of efforts are underway right now to address the needs of not only four-year and postgraduate degree, but also for two-year degree through community and technical colleges. There are 2 advanced training centers being built in the state, one at the Tech Park in South Charleston and one in the Fairmont area. They'll be run through the community and technical college system, and there's been a very concerted effort made to make sure that those facilities are flexible and that they can meet the changing demands of the local industry for training, to train that workforce that we need for these new types of jobs. And I think the exciting thing about Jamie's company is, like she said, it's technology developed here in the state. It's going to provide jobs for people here in the state, which is much like Aether Chemicals, a company where the technology was developed here. It's going to hire people in West Virginia and create a lot of opportunity. And that's what Tech Connect is trying to nurture with similar companies in all of the sectors, whether it's chemicals, biosciences, biometrics, or energy.
And as we talk about it, I really want to understand this, because we talked today about the cracker plant and the cracker plant tax incentive bill to lure a cracker plant here to West Virginia and giving them all kinds of tax incentives in order to do that. And we understand that because it's going to be a plant, because it's going to employ people to construct the plant. It's going to employ people to operate the plant. But when you're talking about innovation technology, and it's been around in West Virginia for a while, if you look at the whole Fairmont I-79 corridor.
Right.
But as you look at technology, this is not an industry that's going to employ massive 200 people or more, is it?
Well, we don't know where all it could go.
We don't know, okay.
We really don't. And that's why the research is so important, to keep funding the research and doing the research and finding ways to commercialize and take out of the lab and transfer that technology into opportunities. I think in the biosciences in particular, there's so much room, because last year Jim Greenwood came from Bio International and spoke at the conference, and he talked about the fact that this is the sector that feeds the world, fuels the world, and heals the world. So the possibilities are really limitless on what could come.
That's really a great way to put it. Say that again, one more time.
That the biosciences feed the world, fuel the world, and heal the world. So whether it's alternative and renewable fuels like biodiesel, or medicines, vaccines like are being developed by Vandalia Research in Huntington, a spin out of Marshall University, or whether it's Protea Biosciences in Morgantown, which Governor Tomlin mentioned in his State of the State, they're revolutionizing the way that biomedical research is going to be conducted. It's really exciting.
Tomorrow night we'll be talking with Dr. Paul Hill, who is now the interim higher Education Policy Commission Chancellor, and also over scientific research, to talk more about research at universities here in West Virginia. Dr. Jamie Miller and Ann Barr, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And here's a look at some of the bills introduced in the House today. Among the bills introduced in the House today, House Bill 4282, providing that adultery is a bar to alimony in a divorce proceeding. House Bill 4290, to create the Keep Jobs in West Virginia Act. The bill prohibits public agencies from awarding contracts to vendors who perform that work outside of the United States. The bill requires vendors to certify that no work will be performed outside of the U.S. House Bill 4294, to repeal a municipality's authority to impose a motor vehicle operator's tax. House Bill 4296 to authorize licensing boards to require applicants to submit to criminal background checks. The bill declares the background checks do not violate public policy. And House Bill 4298 to limit the amount that property can increase in value at a reassessment to 10% of the previously assessed amount, provided that the increase in assessment is not due to improvements made to the property. On second reading in the House tomorrow, House Bill 4238 allows people who are participants in the Secretary of State's Address Confidentiality Program to vote an absentee ballot. The Address Confidentiality Program conceals the address of someone who's filed a domestic violence restraining order. This has been the Legislature Today. We're interested in your comments or questions about our legislative coverage. You can email us at feedback@wvpubcast.org or address your letters to the Legislature Today, West Virginia Public Broadcasting, 600 Capitol Street, Charleston, West Virginia, 25301. I'm Beth Voorhees. Thanks for joining us. Good night.